Spiritual Butterfly here. Hope you're all doing really well today. Today I wanted to talk about some of the stages of awakening that seem to happen further on through your journey. So obviously when you first start waking up, you start to notice everything around in your 3D life, and you actually start to be aware that you're even in a life rather than just blindly being in it. And then you seem to spend the majority of the first part of your awakening like looking at the world, seeing everything differently, and pulling away from everything that you don't like, questioning who you are and why you're here, and realizing everything from the fact that you're walking down the street and you're looking at the flowers and the trees, and you're looking at the sky at night and thinking, wow, this is just great, I'm really here. And the things that were stressful to you can feel even more stressful because you kind of start watching and reading all these things that say you kind of want so much to exist in this bliss state that you keep on hearing about and reading about, and you get the odd little brief glimpse of and them sort of things. And then as you go through the years of the awakening and more knowings happen, and you go deeper into everything, and your perception changes on everything, you kind of then feel out of touch with reality for a while, and that can feel hard, especially when you're going through the purging process, the dark night of the soul, and you can go in and out of those processes. And to be honest, that's still happening. You still go through the extremes of being totally in a bliss state and connected and appreciating everything, and then you can go back down to just thinking, what's it all for? It's so tiring just knowing what I know. I'm waking up every day and doing the same thing, and I think I know what it's for, but then why do I wake up each day having to do the same thing, and when's this going to change? But you still know that you're grateful for the things that you've got because you feel lucky, and you can see the lack in the world, and you can see the wealth in the world, and you can see where you are clearly. And so for a time you can feel sort of out of touch with reality, because as you're walking around viewing the world with these new eyes, you saw where the majority of the people around you aren't thinking like that. And so you're having these conversations and you realise that, well, is it just me thinking like this? And then obviously you look online and you find that there's also a lot of other people going through it, and that does give you a lot of comfort during the journey, because you know that other people are also experiencing it, and it helps you not to feel like you're crazy and out of touch and everything else. And then what happens is, what I've started to realise has happened as you're waking up and you're making these better choices, because you're feeling things rather than blindly doing them. So if something feels wrong, you'll go with your intuition more, and then you can make better choices, and you can get yourself to be in a state where you've got a much more peaceful and stable life. And at times you'll look at what other people are doing and think, oh, sometimes I just wish that I wasn't awakened. I've had times where I've thought, it's just so hard being awakened, and it is it's a hard path. It's self-discovery and everything. You're discovering who you are and trying to find your place in the world and trying to discover why you're here. And then as time goes on, you go from the full illusion to waking up, but then strangely enough you felt more part of life when you were in the illusion, and then when you wake up you feel very out of place in every scenario, even in your own skin, because you have all these feelings. And as the heart chakra and the chakras start to open, and you start to realise that you've got to speak your truth and you've got to get into alignment with who you are, and you can't say yes to things that don't feel good, and you can't do things. And I think as an empath, me being a Capricorn, I would find it, even though if I knew something wasn't good for me, if I knew something was not beneath me, but I knew better, and I knew that I should be respecting me more, or I should be speaking up a bit more, I would find myself going along with a lot of things. And then as you realise that the more you do that, you sort of lose a little bit of yourself, and so you've got to start to take that back, and you can find yourself surrounded by people and situations that aren't in alignment with you, and there comes a time when you can no longer ignore that those things are not in alignment, and so you've got to start weeding all that out, and that's a process in itself. And I think with each thing that goes, it's a painful process of discovering who you are and what you want in life, but at the same time it's hard to let some of the people go because you became attached to them and some of the habits that you've gained, and then you've got to start, you know, refinding other things that you find joy from, and you can really find yourself feeling like you're in between two worlds for quite a while. But then when you start to go from the illusion, and then you start waking up to what reality is, the real reality that you're living in, and you realise that, you know, all these TV programs and entertainments and drinking and all the other things, like everything that we sort of do to keep ourselves occupied a lot of the time, none of those things really, they don't matter. Like, they're just keeping us, they're just pacifying us. And a lot of people can sort of sit in a house that's, they're not cleaning up, they're not taking care of themselves, they're not taking care of their environment, the energy around them, and they can easily find themselves watching TV as an escape, and while their own life is sort of falling apart around them. And that goes for a number of things, you know, shopping and all these things, and it is nice to do those things to take your mind off, and if you find them fun, you know, once in a while. But there does come a time where you've got to realise that the most important things around you are your relationships and your kids and your environment, and getting your life onto a good track for what it is in the reality of what your life is, and really sitting down with yourself and realising, you know, who you are and what you want from life, and what are you willing to accept from life, and what are your dreams and goals and aspirations. And obviously you do question what your relationship is with the Creator, what the religions are, and then you go down the whole spirituality path, and you're just sort of binging on so many different talks and reading so many different things, learning about the chakras and understanding what your body is, and that you actually are spirit in human form. And on the dark days when you realise that you're actually sort of just here, like there's no way of escaping your reality, you are actually here, and you look around and, you know, you can look back at the way your life's been and the choices that you've made, but ultimately you've got to realise with introspection that everything that happened to you and everything that you've been through all led you up to your awakening and gave you all those tools, like all those hard times gave you all those tools to understand others, and most importantly you understand yourself and the strength in yourself, that the things that you've been through, and how did you even overcome a lot of those things. And then there comes the time of you're seeing all the angel numbers and you're being guided, and a lot of the times they'll say, your dreams are manifesting rapidly, and sometimes you can just sort of sit there and think, but what are my dreams? Like, I don't even know what my dreams are like. And I had a conversation with my sister about this today. We were talking about, sometimes when you don't want to ask for help, or if you've been someone who's always had to do a lot of the things for the self in life, finding it very hard to accept help, even if it comes in the form of something really small. Like, I think as a Capricorn, I like to try and come across so independent all the time, and if somebody buys me something, like not a gift for me, but if it's something that, like something for the house that I may need, I can almost feel annoyed or think, well, what are they trying to say by buying me that thing? Do they think that I can't get it for myself? And I've really had to look inside and think, actually, it is one of the universal laws, I forget which one it is, but accepting help is, and not being too proud to accept help, it's like a very big deal for people. And just realising that we are human, like we're human now, and we're here now, and the ego has many layers, and there's also spiritual ego. And I think when you're being guided, when we awakened, obviously that energy came from the source of all creation, the highest of the high, the most high. And when you start to get all these synchronicities, like the angel numbers everywhere you look, and you'll think of something and then it'll pop onto the TV, and you'll think of somebody and they'll ring your phone, and it's so crazy when you realise that everything that you thought life was, that it isn't. And because not many people are really going through it, it is very hard. It's daunting to understand that even the most religious people, there's a lot of religious people that understand religion on a very spirituality on a very deep level, and that's what I can relate to, which is when I watch a lot of the Grace for Purpose talks, or sometimes I'll talk to a Christian person who just is so spot on in what they're saying. I'll talk to a Muslim person and they're so awakened in their faith almost, but for me, I find a lot of the religions to be very fear-based, and so I would call myself a follower of Christ, a follower of the Lord, Jesus Christ, my Lord and Saviour, and that's the footsteps that I want to walk in. If we were all to follow the 10 Commandments, the world would be perfect, and obviously this isn't the only reality. We're promised heaven, a new earth, and I think that a lot of the time in the spiritual community, the talk about the new earth and everything else, and there's a lot of truth in a lot of things, but I think it's using your discernment to what feels right for you, because we all have our own truth and we all have our own things to overcome, and what's right for me, what I need to work on in my life, is not necessarily what the next person needs to work on in their life. But ultimately, the end goal is to raise our vibration, and that is what the religions do teach ultimately, apart from the fact that it says thou shalt not judge in the Ten Commandments. But then you do find a lot of religious people, they'll judge gay people, for instance. They'll say there's something wrong with them, but I believe that the Creator didn't make any mistakes, and I feel like, considering not being gay wasn't one of the Ten Commandments, I think the Creator would have something to say to anybody that didn't follow them. If they believe fully in their religion, they need to be asking themselves, well, why, when it says thou shalt not judge, am I then going against that and judging people or hurting people? You know, I don't believe that any of, you know, these wars and things where you'll get one religion fighting against another, or one belief in them more special than another. And I just think they only have to think outside the box of an all-loving Creator. I mean, I know that the Creator has to set hard lessons for us, which is karma. You know, if you hurt somebody, it has to come back to you, and whatever you do, if you steal from someone, you need to understand how that feels, and so it would have to happen to you. Everything you do, especially once you're awakened, you know, once awakened, you don't really tend to put a foot wrong, because it's not in you anymore. You've learned that certain level of consciousness where them things don't resonate with who you are. You know, you can feel everything, and so you wouldn't. But I think that's why the Creator is so forgiving, because, you know, people really don't know what they do. You know, they know not what they do because they don't understand or think through the consequences of what's actually taking place when they're doing these bad deeds, because they're not really thinking outside of the box. And I think that's the beautiful thing with the awakening, is that it gives you such a bird's eye view on everything you do. And so, you know, you're still human, you still have emotions, you can still get irritated and you still feel sad. I mean, in fact, I don't think I've ever got so teary at watching acts of kindness on YouTube, and hearing sad stories just breaks my heart. And I think when you start to open your heart, you don't just open it to feel in love, you open it, it's your feeling mechanism, and so you open it and you feel a lot of pain and sadness, and you feel other people's pain. And, you know, when you regret the things that you've done in the past, the universe recognises energy and vibration, and so that's why it doesn't matter what the words that you speak or the deeds that you do, because the vibration is what's recognised, and the vibration doesn't lie. That the Creator knows what's in the heart, mind and soul, and all the intentions in between, because it's the vibration. It's, have you learnt that lesson? Yes. If you've learnt it, the wheel of karma stops there, because why would you keep on needing to learn something when you'll never do it again? But there's a lot to be said for, you know, following the law versus faith, because following the law doesn't really do anything in a situation where, if you were asked to go and guard a room full of gold but nobody was watching you, and you just decided you would only not take it because you'd go to jail, then that's not really a righteous heart. But if you were to guard the room knowing that no one was watching you, and you still wouldn't take it because it wasn't yours and it wasn't the right thing to do, or that you wouldn't hurt someone, not because you would get into trouble by the law, but because it was the right thing to do, then the Creator would, I think, we get rewarded, and not rewarded, we get our just desserts, we get what's right, we get what's deserved and what's fair. And I think the awakening has taught me that I've got to stand up for who I am. I've got to do what's right. I've got to think outside the box and see my life from every angle. Move, boy. Move, boy. Come on. Oh, come here. I've got to see my life from every angle, but at the same time, I've got to see the way that other people are treating me and get, I don't like the word get rid of, get anyone out of my life that's not good for me. And it's okay when you realise that people trigger you, because it's good to see what still triggers you, because it helps you to understand what you still need to work on about yourself and where you are in life. But I think, you know, waking up every day, keeping yourself nice and clean and fresh, keeping your house, 1 minute boy, keeping your house clean and interesting and creating a nice space for yourself. You don't have to spend a lot of money to do that. In fact, being creative is so much more fun anyway, and you feel so much more proud. But I think doing that and, you know, always trying to help where you can, be a positive inspiration. You don't even have to go around telling them all about that you're awakening anymore, because a lot of people are not ready to hear it yet, and that's okay, because it will happen to them at the right time. But, you know, don't be afraid of what you're going through. Just find comfort in creating things. Like, I literally just sometimes sit and colour things, and that just sounds really boring, but sometimes I just, to occupy my mind, just sit and write things down or colour things, or just clean a lot of the time, go for walks with the kids and stuff. Especially in this lockdown, there's not an awful lot you can do, but we will know what we're doing here soon, but the shift is happening inside for each one of us, so the more you can work on standing in your power and understanding yourself, understanding why you are who you are, and, you know, if there's people around you that don't understand you and aren't sympathetic towards what you're going through and how you feel, and you don't just click with a person, it's, you know, that if someone's not treating you with that respect that you deserve, then you've got to realise that they don't have a place with you in your future anymore. You've got to realise that everything that's said and done, you've got to see it with clear eyes, and the awakening does enable you to do that. So just find your own coping mechanisms, you know, quiet time for yourself to really reflect on what's going on. There will be days where in your awakening where you feel literally beside yourself with stress and sadness, and your outside circumstance isn't really reflecting that back to you, so it's got to be coming from within. The pain sometimes, well, it is coming from within, and, you know, there's a lot of things that over our lifetimes that we would have refused to acknowledge and admit that things have hurt us out of ego and pride, and it's misplaced ego. It's time that you really sat down with yourself and realised that it's not embarrassing to admit that somebody hurt you or embarrassed you or let you down, and let go of that pain and sit with it and feel it and realise that you didn't deserve that, and the things that you've done wrong yourself, you can forgive yourself for, and now you can see them for what they are, and know that you would never do anything like that again. And sometimes you're shocked at the things you've done when you wake up and you look back and you just think, wow, was that really me? Like, it doesn't resonate with me at all that I was that person. And you will find that your heart just really does get lighter and lighter, and it's not a walk in the park. It's going through an awakening. I don't think anybody ever said it was going to be easy. I don't think the creator thought this was going to be easy. You know, the ones of us that have had the hardest road, and the ones of us that are awake now and we're dealing with this now, there is great purpose to it, and one day soon we're going to know why. This isn't the only reality. This is temporary. We've got something to do here, and being the best person that you can, and in all ways, to everybody else and to yourself, and keeping your energy clear, keeping your mind, body and soul in a clean, righteous way. It's the only way forward, and I think that's what a lot of the religions were trying to teach. That was through following the law, and I think the faith is the most important thing. Not because God's going to punish us or make us burn in the hellfire or any of those other things. You know, you don't need to be a good person because of that. You need to be a good person because it's who you are, and really work on getting yourself into a good alignment with who you are and what's right and why it's right, and not judging others, and really start to see where your ego kicks in. Because even when you're going through your awakening, there's times where you can think to yourself, oh, I'm just spiritual, I'm so much better than them because they're still doing this, that and the third. But then you realise there's nothing like that. You know, nobody chose, well, maybe they did on the other side, but while we're in here in forgetfulness, nobody really as a baby comes in, you know, knowing that they're going to have a certain body or a certain way they look or a certain life that they've got, and we don't walk in their shoes, they're walking in their own shoes, and so we don't know the pain and the trouble. You can't tell by the way a person looks what they've been through and where they've been and what they're coping with on a day-to-day basis. And so we all need to just give each other some slack, and if we need to walk our separate ways from people that are not resonating with us and that's not healthy for us, that's fine too. But we've got to do what's right for us, because otherwise we'll always be trapped in a constant state of stress, frustration, and we won't get onto our correct path because we're refusing to see what's right before our eyes. And I think that's what a lot of people do. They stay in relationships and jobs and even friendships, situations that are just not healthy for them in the slightest. And it's time that we all got to grips with speaking our truth, living our truth, because that's the only way that happiness is going to come. And I think for each one of us that breaks away from something that's not right for us, it leaves the door open for someone else to step into something that's right for them. And as we're walking towards our destiny, we're going to have a lot of tests and tricks and illusions along the way. And, you know, always pray to the Most High and the angels that are guiding you and surrounding you every day, and do what's right for you and everybody else. Don't be a part of the problem, be a part of the solution. So just wanted to get that off my chest. Hard times that we're in now, a lot of separation. Just remember to keep on pushing through every day with as much positivity as you can. It's not easy, but there's a reason for it all, and there's a reason that you're watching this now. If you're waking up, you're not alone. There's lots of us in the same shoes, and it's quite scary, but you're strong enough to do this. Otherwise you wouldn't be waking up now. So congratulations. and stay strong. I send you so much love and light, and I will be back with another video soon. So until then guys, take care. Namaste.